Flirty and Nerdy. Today I have CJ here with me. I've known him as CJ for the longest time, but now you might know him as Vegas Golden Pipes, which is really, really cool. So this episode, we're going to talk about what it was like for him in his young 30s, what it's like for him now, how he got to where he was, kind of like our background in each other as well. So CJ and I knew each other from the Smith Center. You were a manager or were you kind of like assistant manager? Like what was your role at that time?
At that time, when you started, I was a fellow usher and just kind of like a sub supervisor. So when they needed one on the fly, they would talk to me, and then that gradually grew into a full-time supervisor.
Okay, yeah. So when I first met you, which was like we discussed it earlier, like 2013 or so, I was a brand new usher going in. You were already there kind of ushering. And like one of the best things that I remember working with you was I would hear you sing in the hallways. Like you would sing all the time. And I'm like, oh, there's CJ singing again. Like it was just always something that made me like really, really happy. And just like our conversations with, Marvel and nerdy stuff and all that stuff. And it was really fun. I miss like having those conversations with you too. Like it was a good time.
Yeah, no, I enjoy, obviously I enjoy singing. It got me to where I am now, but deep down there's that quote unquote nerd culture where, all things Marvel definitely, and I'm not adverse to talking DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, little bit of anime. I still need to immerse myself in that a little bit more, but all that stuff is just great.
It is. And we really bonded that way too, which I feel like you, me, Frank, Chanel, like all of us just kind of bonded in that type of content, which was really fun.
Yeah, I
But
loved it.
yeah, and so when you were working at the Smith Center, you were in your young 30s that we mentioned, like when we were
Hmm.
talking, and I was in my young 20s, so it's kind of crazy, like where we are at now. And so when you were at that age, did you ever expect that you would be kind of where you are at now? Like I've seen you do so many shows, you're opening with so many different people, you're going around singing all the time. Like, did you ever picture yourself doing that at that time?
Yeah, yes and no. That's the best way I can answer that question. Yes, to the fact that I have always wanted to be a performer. My goal, and it's still my goal in some aspects, it is to be on Broadway. Now, do I want to live in New York for a long time? Not particularly. I've visited once, and it's I know it's great for a lot of people. For me, I was claustrophobic the entire time. Just all the buildings right there. The streets are just two lanes. You can almost jump across the street to the next sidewalk. But the aspect that I'm performing in now, I couldn't have thrown a dart and landed it on that. It's something that was supposed to be kind of a one and done kind of thing. A lot of people sing the national anthem at minor league games or college games, and sometimes even pro sports games. And it's kind of they do it once, and then it's like, all right, that was a thing. But it kind of turned into this whole branding for me, and now I have this, I don't even know what to call it, just this wave that I can not so much ride, but that I can use to my advantage to get to eventually where I want to.
Yeah, I think that's so amazing too. Like once I heard that you started doing national anthems for like the hockey teams and for Vegas Golden Pipes and Vegas Golden Knights and all of that, it's amazing that you said you just kind of jumped on this wave and you kept doing it and doing it, doing it. And you became kind of like a Vegas celebrity almost. Like people like when they see you, they're like, oh yeah, Vegas Golden Pipes. Like I know him. Like, like is that kind of crazy to you that you're like, holy shit, like I'm kind of like the biggest celebrity now? Does it ever like hit you like that? Or are you just kind of like, like people just kind of know me?
It's it took a while to get to the, like, hey, how you doing, people recognizing me phase. There were times, especially right after the first season, because that was, you know, we all talk about that was October 1. The Knights kind of came in and just helped the city heal at the time, gave us something to band around. And I didn't actually come in until the season was almost over. I came in February. The season ended. The main season ended in April. We went to postseason. We went to Stanley Cup. But like that's where I got the most recognition, because I sang just a couple times and they kept winning, so they kept having me back, and they liked how I sing it. I don't do anything extra. I don't do any runs. I don't do any tempo changes. I just sing it straight through. And a lot of people in this country just they want to sing along with it. And when you have somebody who does all that extra stuff, it's just hard to do. So, you know, the song speaks for itself. And after that first season, I can remember kind of the first time it happened where somebody was quote unquote starstruck. I was going to the Golden Knights practice facility, City National Arena, because I wanted to get something out of their shop. And I walked by someone and they kind of stopped and kind of had that like awestruck look where like I walked by, I didn't even notice at the time. And I hear this gasp, I hear this, and then like I kind of looked out of the side of my eye and they just had their like mouth dropped open and were like watching me walk by. And I was like, is it really that big a deal? Like, you know, I'm just a guy that did this, and like, it wasn't anything. And they were just like, oh my gosh, we love you so much. And I was like, oh, thank you. And there, can we take a picture? Yeah, of course. And that was kind of like my first foray into it, which was about 4 years ago now. So it's happened, it's happened a lot since then. Even now, I'm in my car, you know, people can see I'm sitting in here, because I'm at a Las Vegas Aces watch party event. And I walk in and one guy was just like, hey, Golden Pipes. I was just like, hey, how's it going? So yeah, it happens, and it's gotten to the point now where, you know, I just say hi back and, you know, thank them for, if they want to talk more, we'll talk a little bit more. But usually it's just hey, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, we love you. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really kind of surreal how you started from there, and it's like shock at first, and I'm just kind of like, hey, what's up? Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, it's definitely fun seeing and hearing about that from like where you're at right now. It's definitely inspiring, especially for people that want to get into singing, want to get into doing Broadway and different things like that. Like you kind of like hit the right moment. You know what I mean? Like you hit like the jackpot, so to say. Your Golden Knights lucky charm, I would think.
It's what a lot of people have said.
Yeah, of course. And so you were talking about going into Broadway. Would you kind of put like Golden Pipes as a resume, like going into Broadway? Like, do you think because of your Golden Pipes, like you'll have that kind of leg of, producers looking at you being like, oh yeah, I can see him, in Broadway, or doing at least like tour Broadway? Like, do you think that would kind of benefit you?
I think so. It's always hard to say because a lot of my friends who are in Broadway, they're like, oh, you got to pay your dues. You got to go through XYZ and be a struggling artist and all of this stuff. And while I find that somewhat true, I don't think that's 100% true. So if I got to get to Broadway, well, number one, the question would be, would they recognize who I am? It's completely different. The entertainment world, well, I shouldn't say it's that different, but the entertainment world and the sports world are two different worlds. Now, especially here in Vegas, we merge those two when, especially during the Golden Knights, during those games, there's a lot of performances from the Vivas, the Divas, the Nightline, everybody kind of contributes to us being the entertainment capital of the world. And so going into, let's say, a Broadway audition, I would absolutely put that on my resume to show, hey, I've been doing this for 4 years. Look me up. It's, you type in my name, I'm the first thing that comes up. You type me into YouTube, all of my anthems are right there. So It's actually a thing I've had to learn how to use correctly. People are always like, take your fame and use it. And I'm like, I don't want to, it's not who I am. I try and work hard for things. And then I have to go back and think, wait, I worked hard to get this fame. I did shows for, I worked for 2.5 months, got $300 for a show, or I would do a gig for $20, $50. And I'm like, you know what? I actually did go through that struggling phase. I actually did put in my time. And, now where I am now, I should be able to use that to my advantage. Now, I would never, people are always using the phrase, do you know who I am? And it's not something that I would never use that phrase, but I would use that leverage. I would use that moniker. I would use Golden Pipes and be like, yeah, I sang for the Golden Knights for, it's going on, it's 5 years now. We're going into the sixth season. I'm coming back again. So clearly something is working. And I need you as a Broadway producer, I need you to see that, I am reliable. I can be here. I can do this. And here are all of my show credits as well. I've been in all these shows. So, yeah, take a chance on me.
Yeah, they absolutely need to. I think you would do amazing on Broadway, when you get there, not if, when. Yeah, you definitely need to use all of that, all the things you've done. You are also a teacher too, right? Like a choir teacher. I remember hearing about that through a friend. They're like, yeah, CJ was my like choir teacher. So not even just doing like little gig shows here and there, you also taught. So you were in it for a very long time. And you deserve the recognition. You deserve the effort and the kudos and all of that. Like everything you worked for, it's leading up to it. And so like the past years, you've been just working your ass off, like in your 30s. And now look at you, like I don't know your age, but like I won't ask you if you don't want to say it.
So,
But like you're proof that working hard can get to where you want to go in life.
absolutely. And I will answer that. I am 40. I just turned 40 last year. I'm turning 41 in 3 months. I can't even remember. But yeah, it's one of those things where, especially nowadays, I think it's gotten a little bit better, but in the last 10, 20 years, people were saying like, oh, if you don't have it figured out by your mid 20s to late 20s, it's over. If you don't have that job that you want, or in Broadway, they say there's a lifespan, and if you're not going to NYU or something on the East Coast where you can go and do these auditions right out of high school, then you're not going to make it. It's so untrue. There are so many actors and performers that didn't make it into their 30s and even to their 40s. Samuel L. Jackson, I believe, was in his 40s when he got his first big role. Jeremy Renner, who we know as Hawkeye, I believe he was his late 30s when he started gaining a lot of traction. So, there's a lot of people out there that made it later in life. And in 2018, I was 37 when I landed on that one. And, it's blossomed into where I am now. So absolutely, you don't have to have it all figured out in your even 30s, even your 40s, even 50s. You never know when something can hit. And so you're absolutely right when it's cliche, but it's like, don't give up. You keep working on it. If it's something you're passionate about, you will put in the time and effort to get where you want to be.
I love that so much. Yeah, it's true. There, like what you said about people making it like kind of later in life, and you don't have to make it like right away out of college or high school or anything like that. Like, it's such good perspective because people don't think like that. People have like, oh shit, I have this timeline and I need to like get everything in at once. But then it's like if you don't make that timeline, you just kind of freak out. And then it's like, no, 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 but you still have time. Like,
Mhm.
I think I saw something where Oprah Winfrey didn't become like Oprah Winfrey at like 35 or like later. Like, so it's like, you're right. It does happen for people at different times. And that's what I want people to listen to this to understand. Like, it's okay. Your life is going the way that it's supposed to go. Like, you're going to hit that thing, whatever it is, when you're supposed to hit it. You hit golden pipes at, you said 37,
Mhm.
right? And it's like your life is progressing even faster now because that happened. And you're like, hey, like I could do this. Like I could progressing in a good way. Like your dreams are coming faster, is what I mean. And so yeah, it's like you feel stuck right now, but in the long run, it's gonna come for you. It's just you have to be patient, I think. I think a lot of people lack patience. What do you say?
I completely agree, especially in this day and time. I'm considered a young Gen Z slash old, or young Gen X slash old millennial. I always do X and Z just because they're so close together. But the Gen X was really one of the last generations to have a lot of patience. When it gets into the millennials, we started getting into a lot more technology and things were right at our fingertips. We're here talking to each other. I'm on my phone and you're sitting there across town. It's like if you ever would have thought about that in the 90s, it would have taken who knows how much RAM or gigabytes, or even if you could get a gigabyte back then, but it would have taken a lot of work to make this happen back then. Whereas now with technology, things are at a touch of a button. We're mad when we try to load a website and it takes more than like 5 or 6 seconds. So yeah, we've been conditioned to not have patience anymore. And the people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way up from there, like they were really the last ones that sat through, a fax one page taking 17 minutes to come through. People don't even know what a fax is anymore, but it definitely has become a bigger struggle in today's society with everything just right at a touch of a button.
Yes, I agree exactly what you said too. Like we have everything so fast now, so effortlessly, and people are like, why isn't this happening now? So the patience is definitely like a really big thing, I think. My generation, like the young millennials and like Gen Zs and all of them need to really kind of focus on. But yeah, I think that's amazing advice just to kind of have more patience. Speaking of advice too, like what would you say to your younger self at 30, advice that you wish you had that you know now?
In a nutshell, shit gets weird. It's the best way I can put it. Like,
Shit gets weird. Shit hits the
yeah,
fan.
yeah, it's you're nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but a lot of the things you think are going to happen and can happen won't happen. And then on the flip side, something you never think would happen might happen. It's I don't like saying keep going, go the distance. We all know that, but like talking to my younger self, just saying it's not gonna go how you think it's gonna go, but it's gonna be all right. Just keep on the path, you know. Everybody on their journey they get distracted, they get distraught, they kind of feel like giving up at a time, and that doesn't matter anything. Gym journey to being a CEO, journey to being a doctor, journey to being a performer, everything, we all hit those roadblocks. We're human. We have emotions, and even somebody who tells you, oh no, everything was just fine, it wasn't. They're lying. There was, even if it was something minor, something little, everybody has to go through some sort of struggle to get to where they want to. And so, it is prudent that we understand at a younger age to 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 realize it might not go this way. You're a Harry Potter fan, so I know this is going to work well for you. When Harry which what was it? It wasn't Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince. When he took the good luck, what is it, Felix Felicis? Is that?
I think so. I know it was a good luck charm. I know
Yeah,
it
it
was
was.
that.
It
Yeah.
was. Yeah, and when he took that, it was they were trying to get to a certain point, and they were like, "Oh, we have to get this memory from Slughorn." He was like, "Awesome, let's go see Hagrid." And it's like, wait, no, that's completely opposite of what we're trying to do. But he got to where he needed, even though he took a completely different route to get there. It was what was needed at the time. And so where you're at right now, where people are at right now, if they want to get to a certain point, just know, if they're not at it right now, but they're working for it, you'll get there. You just, it might take a little bit longer, and that's okay. It doesn't have to happen in the next 25 minutes, or in the next month, or in the next year. It might take 5-10 years, and that's okay. If you are passionate about it, it'll work. That's the biggest thing.
Passion is what you need in order to keep going.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I love your parallel with Harry Potter, because I didn't think of that like before when I would like watch the show or anything like that. Like I didn't put that in perspective. But how you put it in perspective, I think a lot of people will be like, oh, there's a task. There's one way you do, you go straight line or take all these different routes, but you'll still get there. But the different routes that you take, there's different lessons along the way. It's kind of like the Uno Loam symbol. Have you heard of that symbol?
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the Uno Loam is a symbol. I think it's Buddha symbol, and it's basically like a straight line, and it has a lot of different like wiggles and turns and things like that, and it's another straight line. And basically, the meaning behind it is life takes you in many different directions and paths, but you're on the right path, that where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
So it's just like what you said, except Harry Potter wise, and I just absolutely love that. Like that's awesome. But yeah, it's a really cool perspective, and I think a lot of people really need to hear that. So thank you for that.
Of course, and it's, think of it as, if he would have gone straight to Slughorn, he wouldn't have gotten what he needed, so the straight path is not always the best path. Sometimes you've got to take those forks in the road. That's how you're going to get to where you want to be, or what you need.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that, and for your
Yeah.
wisdom, and for being on with me. Like everything that you said, I'm just like, yes, like people are gonna love this. People are going to resonate really well with it, because like, life isn't always one way. There's so many different ways, and you are a prime example of that. And the things that you explained and how you explained it, I think are going to be really, really beneficial for people to hear. So thank you so much for that.
No, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yay, thank you so much.
Hey friends, thank you for listening to today's episode. Please take a moment to follow and review this podcast so it could reach others. Also, if you leave a review, I'll be sharing your review in the next episode. Lastly, if you want to be part of this growing podcast to chat about your life, your profession, passions, or if you have advice that you wish you had at 30, please sign up at the link provided in the show notes. I would love to have you as a guest on the show. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.